Some worries tonight as we head into another weekend after large groups of young people flooded downtown last weekend. So what's being done about it? CBS 2's Tara Molina is live in the Loop. Tara, one alderman says the city needs to stop the crime that comes with this fast.
Erica, to send a message that crimes like these will not be tolerated heading into the summer, because these incidents really aren't new. We've seen this for years now, right around this time of year. But there are concerns tonight that this year it could be worse.
Tara Molina, man. What do y'all think Tara Molina thinks about black people? This is the Chicago reporter from CBS. And just her and just all white news reporters who report in these cities. And they do these stories. Last time I did a story with her that I really remember was this 14-year-old girl that went on a carjacking spree. Carjacked a bunch of people in Chicago. They got the car back from one of her carjackings and it was bullet holes in it. Like she had gotten in the shootout. And 14-year-old girl. And when I look at these white reporters, just like I talk about what the black reporters must think when they're doing these stories every day, no matter what city they go to. Like, she can get reassigned to another city and it's going to be the same thing. And the type of behavior that's acceptable from these young black people, like, what does she really truly think? Does she really think what she'll tweet about Black Lives Matter and defund the police, or does she really be like, yo, like, these people are effing crazy, man. What the hell is wrong with these people?
Some worries tonight as we head into another weekend after large groups of young people flooded downtown last weekend. So what's being done about it? CBS 2's Tara Molina is live in the Loop. Tara, one alderman says the city needs to stop the crime that comes with this fast.
Erica, to send a message that crimes like these will not be tolerated heading into the summer, because these incidents really aren't new. We've seen this for years now, right around this time of year. But there are concerns tonight that this year it could be worse. Something thrown at an unmarked CPD cruiser.
This kid downtown. Look at all these people around shopping, having a good time. This kid goes in the middle of the street and throws a bottle or rock, something, at a cop car. It just walks off like nothing happened. And you got black people online who act like every black person is in jail for no reason. That's what that whole abolish the police thing is about. Because prisons are racist. And black people is only in there because of racism. Now, if the cops were to get out and chase this kid and tackle him and try to put some cuffs on him, it'd be a bunch of people standing around. Let him go. Let him alone. He's just a kid. Then the paper next day, they handcuffed the 12-year-old. They handcuffed the 13-year-old. Do you understand that there are white towns in this country where this would be the big story of the week? A kid threw a fucking something at a cop car that was riding down the street. There are white towns where that's the biggest story. I've been to them. Black people got to get out of their city. Black people, we live in these cities and we never leave. And we think that everything is the same. It's just like this. Nah, everything, it ain't everywhere ain't like that. Everywhere ain't like this. This would be the big story. People would be outraged. They be talking about how the kids in this generation, they're not like we were. Something's got to be done about these kids, these crazy kids. Just this story. This is not even a story. This would never make the news as its own story in any black community. Unless he threw something, the cop crashed and died or something like that. Or the cop got out, like I said, chased him down and put some handcuffs on him. Then that would be the story. But just this would never be the story in any black city. In any black town.
Something thrown at an unmarked CPD cruiser. Trash cans and planters knocked over. That's what our cameras captured last weekend, as large groups of teens moved through downtown Chicago, causing what police called, quote, disturbances.
If we look the other way and allow it to happen, it's only going to get worse as the summer goes on.
According to CPD, 5 juveniles were arrested and charged with a misdemeanor count of reckless conduct last Saturday on East Randolph. That's all they said. Alderman
5. There were thousands of kids down there last weekend. Thousands. Go on Facebook, look at the footage. Their own footage that they're recording of them destroying things and them assaulting people. Look at the footage they upload online. Thousands. And 5 got arrested. But they always introducing our kids to the criminal justice system. They don't have to say, if a white kid would have did it. How many of y'all tired of this if a white kid would have did it? When you got thousands of, and these kids are serious, like many of these kids got bodies. I would say 30 to 40% of them have fired a gun in anger at someone. I would say 50% of them have been arrested in their neighborhood before. They all know 10, 20 people that have been murdered. And they're teenagers. Many of these kids have been shot. Many of them have been shot. It was thousands of them running around like a purge. In downtown Chicago, and 5 were arrested. And we got to hear about every time something happened to a black. If they was white, they don't treat our kids the same way. They did. If these were white kids down there doing this shit, if it was 3 white kids down there doing this shit, let's just say it was no black kids and just 3 white kids went downtown and doing this shit, black people would be online bitching and moaning, talking about something. See, they ain't even get arrested. They let their kids do anything. But white people can't bitch and moan about this in the downtown part of Chicago. This ain't the hood. This is Michigan Avenue, the Gold Coast, the areas where you're supposed to be able to get away from this crap.
If we look the other way and allow it to happen, it's only going to get worse as the summer goes on.
According to CPD, 5 juveniles were arrested and charged with a misdemeanor count of reckless conduct last Saturday on East Randolph. That's all they said. Alderman Brian Hopkins told us most of what was reported was minor, but he detailed some of what our cameras didn't capture, too.
But there have been some severe incidents as well. There was a stabbing, a number of assaults, lots of theft where they're grabbing phones and taking purses and wallets from people.
Notice he calls them grabbing somebody's phone, their purse, and their wallet. They call that a theft. That's a robbery. But just notice how they downgrade these things. There was a big scandal in D.C. about this a few years ago. I did a video on that. How they downgrade things. Like if someone comes into your house, breaks into your house, they won't even call it a burglary anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's getting real sketchy in these inner cities, man. They downgrading a lot of these crimes because black people getting too much time in prison. They want less time, prison time for black people, less black people in jail. That's the reason. So they downgrading a lot of these crimes where it's like back in the day, you take a woman's purse, because you know a woman not just going to give up her purse. Like, it's not like you just snatch a woman's purse. You got to fight with a woman to get her purse. A woman not just going to give you her purse. So that's a theft. That was a robbery back in my day.
There have been some severe incidents as well. There was a stabbing, a number of assaults, lots of theft where they're grabbing phones and taking purses and wallets from people.
This isn't the first year we've seen massive groups and issues downtown, but Hopkins says this time around the city needs to send a message with what he calls a proactive approach.
Nobody wants to round up a bunch of kids and throw them in jail. That doesn't really solve the problem. But the older ones who...
I don't know if that doesn't solve the problem. If I'm the person that they took my phone or they took my purse or they took my wallet, I beg to differ. Now, I get it. I get what he's saying. Like, it doesn't even matter when you lock these kids up because they get out the next day. They don't get, there's no, like these kids, there's nothing you can do to juveniles. The juvenile system in America is so sweet. Like, these kids know that. They know that there's nothing that can be done to them. Like, after they get like 10 or 20 of these arrested, maybe they'll go to juvie. But there's so many diversionary programs and things like that. And most of the time, the stuff is no paper. These kids know that. I mean, I get a guy a break. Like, yeah, there's just locking these kids is no point. There's nothing. There's nothing. Nothing will come of it because they know they'll be out later on that day or either in a few hours.
Nobody wants to round up a bunch of kids and throw them in jail. That doesn't really solve the problem. But the older ones who are largely the ringleaders who are responsible for organizing and encouraging criminal activity, they need to be arrested and they need to be held to account.
We checked in with Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office on that, following up with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office too, first sending a request Thursday. No response from either office.
We have to make sure we're doing it right, we're acting within the law, that everyone's rights are still respected, and if we can pull that off, I think it would really help. So that's a conversation among city departments, including the mayor's office.
Now, of course, we checked in with Chicago police on this. They will not share with me what they call specific deployment details, but did say they'll have the right amount of resources on hand to ensure public safety. Erica?
Okay, well, Tara, we know there was a visible police presence last weekend. Our photographer, who was out in the middle of the crowd, says officers seem to be everywhere.
And, you know, these are woke liberal women living in Chicago. They're in the media, so they're extremely woke women. And the sisters bitching about police brutality and black bodies and institutional and structural this and that. And then they go back to work and they do these stories. I just don't, it just amazes me how they live these duplicitous, like, just lives, like, where everything's about race. Everything. except for this.
Photographer who was out in the middle of the crowd says officers seem to be everywhere.
Erica, he was right in the middle of it. You can tell from that video you just saw in the story, and he called it a massive police presence. Police on bikes, police in vehicles throughout the city. But still, despite that massive presence, we only know about the 5 arrests that Chicago police told us about today.
All right, Tara Molina, live breaking now for the second night in a row. We begin with a child shot in Chicago, this time a 2-year-old girl from Little Village. The toddler was shot in the leg and rushed to Strozier Hospital, where we are told she is in good condition. Police say the girl was in the backseat of a car when someone drove up and fired into the vehicle. No.
For the second night in a row.
Breaking news in the last hour, we've learned a second person has died from a shooting at an outdoor party on the city's south side. 3 other people were also hurt. CBS 2's Meredith Barrett.
Let me fix that for you, Suzanne Le Mignon. Let me fix that for you. There wasn't a shooting, man. It was a mass shooting. Okay?
A second person has died from a shooting at an outdoor party on the city's south side. 3 other people were also hurt. CBS 2's Meredith Barrett joining us now from UFC Hospital, where some of those victims were taken. Meredith.
Suzanne, police say several people were at a gathering when an unidentified person began shooting, then ran from the scene. This all took place just after 3 this morning at what authorities are calling a yard party in the 7800 block of Loomis in the Gresham neighborhood. This is video from the scene where they were shot. You can see several ambulances as well as officers canvassing an alley in the yard where the party was taking place. Of the 5 victims, a 26-year-old man was shot in the head and pronounced dead here at UFC Hospital. Another victim also died from his injuries. 3 other men in their 20s also sustained gunshot wounds and are listed in fair to critical condition. They are being treated here at UFC or at Christ Hospital. No one in custody at this time, and Area 2 detectives continue to investigate.
Listen, man. I haven't said the race of the people who were shot or the race of the shooter. But y'all already know. So what does that say about y'all? That you not for 1 second did you think, were you inundated or encumbered with a thought about what race was this? Was this Hispanic? Was it a Latino? Was it a Asian? Was it Arabs? You knew who this was as soon as you heard it. And because of that, I have to block everybody who talks about cooning or you hate yourself. The mods have to block them. There's no way until there can be a story about a shooting and you question in your mind what race it was. Anybody who says anything slick about cooning or why are you talking about black people, you have to be blocked. We can't have you here. Sorry. You have to enjoy one of the other 8 million channels on YouTube. Sorry, man. Can't have you here, man. Okay, so we got 37 shot and 5 fatally since Friday, which is a very low number compared to past years for Chicago. Usually around this time, approaching summertime, these numbers look like 10, 15 shot, between 70 and 80. I mean, 70 and 80 shot, 10, 15 killed. That'd be a typical weekend in Chicago. But the problem is Trump sent the feds in last year. And the feds considerably took the crime down in Chicago. They locked up a lot of the major gang leaders, a lot of the killers. FBI comes in and they got more resources and more skills than the local police department. So they put a big dent in Chicago's, murder rate and crime and shooting rate, but that's still a staggering number. That's still a staggering number. Still a staggering number. And the scary part about it is, if you heard the last story, there's police everywhere. The city's teeming with police. Because of the black people. Teeming with police. And it's still this much, like, all this much was still happen. Which is terrifying. Because it's just terrifying, man. Because all these people are black. And people get mad at you when you say that. But, like, what about the black people? Like, shouldn't we bring... Chicago's 29% black. It used to be, it was 33 a few years ago. Now it's 29% black. Why is every single person that gets killed in the city that's 29% black? Black. Like, all of them. Well, not all of them. Got this guy, Christian Michael. He was killed the other day. Who you think killed him? But all the rest of them. Okay. All the rest of them. I see you over there, Jorge Cruz. The Black and Brown Coalition. Chicago's actually 30-something% Hispanic. I want you to tell me how many Hispanics you see on this list. Because, black and brown, we go through the same things, man. Our communities are identical. We're the same in every way. We're all the Latinos, man. It's more Latinos in Chicago than blacks. I bet you more black kids under the age of 8 have been killed than all Latinos. We're in March. All that scrolling I did, we're in March. Remember Rhode Island? By the time, when I was in the video I did on Rhode Island the other day, Providence, I did this much scrolling. We was back to 2016. So this is why people assume when they hear a shooting, they assume that the person who did it was black and the person who got killed was black. This is why. Okay? So mods, get the block. Anybody say anything even remotely, if they start the word, their comment with the letter C. Block their ass.